Thanks to popular special weapons like the Felwinter Slide Shotgun and the adored Sniper Rifle in PvP, the primary weapons that get the most limelight in the Crucible tend to be from the kinetic slot pool of weapons. For example, if we look at Destiny Trials report for each weekend, we'll typically see the top picks consisting of guns like Sturm, True Prophecy, the Steady Hand, Crimson, Ace of Spades, Dire Promise, Vigilance Wing, and No Time to Explain, all of which are kinetic weapons. But what about the energy slot? Although most of the favorite special weapons in PvP tend to take up the energy slot, there are a few great special weapons that live in the kinetic slot as well. In particular, some of the best in my opinion are the Chaperone, Bastion, Arbalist, Eye of Soul, and especially Astral Horizon, which is basically tied for the best shotgun in the game right next to the Felwinter's Lie if you happen to have a god roll. So with these kinetic special weapons in mind, I wanted to make a short list of some of the best energy primaries that you can pair with any of these options. The rules I chose when picking these weapons are as follows. Number 1, I wanted to go with all legendary options so that you can mix and match with any kinetic exotic special weapon as desired. Number 2, instead of picking all 5 hand cannons or auto rifles, I wanted to try to showcase some diversity, so I limited myself to one of each type of weapon. Number 3, so that these loadouts can be used in endgame PvP like Iron Banner and Trials of Osiris, I wanted to also look at only weapons that aren't currently sunset so that you can bring them up to the current maximum power level. So with those rules out of the way, here are my top 5 legendary primary weapons in the energy slot. Starting with number 5, we have the Stars and Shadow. This 340 RPM pulse rifle has really nice clean sights, and since it's a high impact frame, it has the ability to 2-burst opponents for a blistering fast 0.67 second time to kill as long as you're able to land your shots. It also has some pretty good options for perks, which we'll cover in a minute. And it drops pretty frequently from playing PvP, so you'll have plenty of chances to snag a good roll as long as you play enough. The downside of these high impact pulses is that they're pretty punishing to use if you start missing your shots. Against fast moving targets, it's pretty easy to miss a bullet or two, which leaves your target with just a bit of health left, and then you're stuck with a lengthy delay between bursts. I find these kind of pulses to be most useful at medium range and fairly difficult to use up close. But if you're able to hit all of your shots, you're going to be rewarded with a very fast time to kill. It also has access to kill clip, which doesn't directly improve the optimal time to kill, but it does make it a bit less difficult to achieve. As for roll recommendations, here's what I'd go with. By the way, the website I'm using to show you these rolls is d2gunsmith.com, one of my favorite Destiny resources. In fact, I have a video coming out soon covering all of my favorite external resources for Destiny 2 players, so if you don't want to miss that one, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. The role I'd recommend for Stars and Shadow, starting with the mouse and keyboard players on PC first, would be any of the barrel options to give you range, with Hammer Forged being my top pick. Then for the second column, I'd go with Accurized rounds, and then Quick Draw, Surplus, or Killing Wind for the third column, and Kill Clip, Head Seeker, or Moving Target for the final column. All this being with a range masterwork. Controller players may opt for more stability with the masterwork and barrel options in order to better control the recoil, but on mouse and keyboard it's pretty stable already, so I think maximizing range makes the most sense to push your engagement ranges out even further. Next up in the number 4 spot on our list is the new Raid Scout Trustee. Trustee is a 260 RPM rapid fire frame, which means that it can fire in full auto. I'm not a huge scout rifle fan typically, but I have to admit this one feels pretty good to use, especially when you can be disciplined and play back a bit to take advantage of that extra scout rifle range. This scout has a 0.93 second optimal time to kill at mid resilience levels, which isn't the greatest, but it's not that bad either since it only requires 3 headshots and 2 body shots. It also has a super forgiving body shot time to kill of 1.4 seconds, which is really great for a scout rifle. That's one area where scouts typically tend to struggle. For example, hitting all body shots with the 150 RPM scout rifles, like the Polaris Lance, will give you a lengthy time to kill of 2.0 seconds. Ouch. As far as rolls go, for this one I'd recommend a range adding barrel like Hammer Forged, and then I'd go with Accurized rounds for the mag slot. For the third column, I've actually been enjoying Reconstruction lately, since it can greatly increase your magazine size and allow for many kills before reloading, but Killing Wind and Surplus are also great options here. For the final column, I think Wellspring and Eye of the Storm both make a lot of sense. And High Impact Reserves is also an interesting option in order to cut down the time to kill by a bullet in some situations, but that's only when you're shooting from the bottom half of the magazine. Sadly, this perk also doesn't pair well with Reconstruction. For the masterwork, I'd go with range for mouse and keyboard players and stability for controller, as well as maybe swapping to a stability improving barrel for controller players. Moving on to number 3 on our list, we have the Ikelos SMG V1.0.2. This has been one of my favorite SMGs ever since using the static roll version back in Season 3 of Destiny 2 PvP. The 750 RPM archetype has always felt awesome to me as a good middle ground between the 600 and the 900 RPM options. SMGs are kind of in a weird place in Destiny right now. On one hand, they do kill pretty quickly. The Ikelos SMG, for example, has a 0.67 second optimal time to kill and a 1.0 second body shot time to kill. Both of these are excellent. The problem though is the range of those engagements. That time to kill value starts to blow up really fast when you're out of range, but if you're too close to an enemy, it's very easy to get shotgunned or shadow dive combo dunked. So you need to play in this perfect sweet spot of around 10 to 20 meters in order to hit your optimal time to kill, while also not getting too close to get shotgunned. It makes for a really fun playstyle, but with the introduction of stasis, that range pocket can get really dangerous, and it leads to getting frozen or slowed pretty frequently if you're not careful about your engagements. Regardless, I still find that the Ikelos SMG is really fun to use, and it has some pretty solid perk options as well. For the barrel, once again we want to add some range for mouse and keyboard players and stability for controller. My favorite barrel is Hammer Forged to get the range benefit without the downsides. For the second column, you want either Accurized rounds or Seraph rounds. Both are great here, but with Seraph rounds you have the extra benefit of being able to ricochet around corners, which might help you to clean up some kills. For the third column, I'd go with Dynamic Sway Reduction, which is one of the best perks for both auto rifles and SMGs. And in the fourth column, I'd go Tap the Trigger or Demolitionist. Tap the Trigger and DSR together are a really cool combination, because you can land shots easier on your first trigger pull with Tap the Trigger, and then as you continue firing, you naturally switch over to Dynamic Sway Reduction to finish out the magazine. It's a really sweet combo and it makes getting kills just a bit easier. But with grenades being as strong as they are, especially in a stasis meta, having Demolitionist is a good option as well. Some people might be tempted to go with Surrounded for that damage boost, but I found that it's a bit too hard to consistently get this perk going in PvP, while you have to stay alive when shotguns and stasis are both in play. Maybe you'll have more success than me though. For the masterwork, once again I'd go with range for mouse and keyboard players, and potentially stability for controller if you feel like you need it. Okay, we're on to number 2 on our list, which is the terror of Season 11, the Gnawing Hunger. Even after the nerf, this 600 RPM auto rifle still shreds in PvP. It's pretty amazing, and with the right roll it can absolutely destroy a lobby if you're using it correctly. These days it has a 0.8 second optimal time to kill at base, and a 1.3 second body shot time to kill, which really isn't too bad. Especially since you can get some pretty impressive range and also kill clip to speed up those numbers. In my few games played capturing footage for this video, I was blown away by how well my best roll from last season was still holding up. It's truly still a scary weapon in PvP, and it's so easy to use. As for the rolls, here's what I'd recommend. For the barrel, once again we want some range for mouse and keyboard players and stability for controller. I'd go with Hammer Forge rifling as my top pick here. In the second column, I'd go for Accurized rounds for more range. In the third column, the clear winner to me is Tap the Trigger, one of the best perks for auto rifles. It makes landing those first few bullets so easy. And in the final column, I think kill clip here is pretty much a no-brainer, although really any of these final perk options are pretty solid. Kill clip gives you immediate access to a major damage boost, which can improve the time to kill right away with just a single kill, and it makes Gnawing Hunger a terrifying weapon to face. For the masterwork, once again I'd go with range for mouse and keyboard players and stability for controller. And now we're onto the number 1 spot in my list for energy slot legendary primary weapons, which would be the Ancient Gospel. Now I'll be honest, I've never loved how this gun looks. Both the gun model as well as how it looks when you're aiming down sights. But it's hard to ignore how good this gun is from the stats and perks perspective. It has pretty great stats across the board for range, stability, handling, and reload speed. Sure, you can find guns that beat it in one category or another with the right rolls, but Ancient Gospel has a pretty excellent mix of stats when all things are considered. Since it's a 140 RPM hand cannon, it has a 0.87 second optimal time to kill, which is the fastest time to kill of any legendary hand cannon at base, but it also has the trade-off that you need to hit 3 headshots unless you have some sort of a damage buff. The body shot time to kill is very slow at 1.73 seconds, so you really need to be sure you hit your headshots because this gun heavily rewards accuracy. The bummer is that you can only obtain this gun from the Garden of Salvation raid, which is on a weekly lockout, meaning that you can only run it once per character per week in order to get loot. And unfortunately, you can't get extra drops from the final chest like you can in the new raid, the Deepstone Crypt. Hopefully someday, both Garden and Last Wish will both get that great new loot system. The good news though is that the rolls you can get are pretty limited to some great options as long as you get lucky in the first two columns. For the barrel, once again you're looking for range for mouse and keyboard users and stability for controller. You guessed it, my top pick is hammer forged rifling. For the magazine slot, I'd go with accurized rounds. For slots 3 and 4, you really don't have many bad options. For the third column, I think rapid hit, slide shot, and Eye of the Storm are all excellent for PvP. And for the fourth column, kill clip or rangefinder are probably your best options. Rangefinder will give you a few extra meters of range to duel with before you're experiencing that damage drop off, and kill clip will make hitting those optimal time to kill numbers a bit more forgiving. For the masterwork, I'd go with range for mouse and keyboard players and stability for controller. So there you have it, those are my top 5 legendary primary weapons for the energy slot when you're not considering any sunset options. If you're gonna throw sunset weapons into the mix, I'd give an honorable mention to both Not Forgotten, which is once again doing extra damage on that mag house shot, as well as the Thin Line, if you still happen to have one, which can get quick draw and rampage pretty spicy. I also realized that I didn't include any sidearms in the list. I'm not personally a huge fan of them as a primarily mouse and keyboard player, but I understand that they're pretty great on controller. If I had to pick one in the energy slot, I think I'd probably go with Drang, which has always felt like one of the best options for mouse and keyboard players. It also has the natural benefit of pairing with Sturm, which is one of, if not the absolute best hand cannons in the current sandbox. I'd also make an honorable mention to the Fool's Remedy sidearm from Iron Banner, which can roll the kill clip and has the ability to land some crazy fast kills when kill clip is activated. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a thumbs up rating to help other people find it. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my next video. I have an updated hand cannon tier list video coming out soon that you really don't want to miss. If you're looking for new people to play with and chat about Destiny PvP, we have an awesome community Discord server with over 7,000 members. The link to join is discord.gg/pattycakes. I also stream every week over on Twitch. You can watch me live at twitch.tv/pattycakespc. That's all for now. Catch you guys next time.